The last time a private server was in the news, it was Nostalrius. Over 9 years ago now, they shut the private server down after receiving a cease and desist from Blizzard. That led to massive, widespread protest, and under that pressure, Blizzard were forced to act. And we got Classic as a direct result of that. This time though, it is completely different. It's a hell of a lot more dramatic too. And the target is Turtle WoW. In many ways, Turtle WoW is the Classic Plus that we've always dreamed of. And they're not shutting it down in response. Yeah, they're not. This is where the story gets interesting. You see, the thing is, Blizzard didn't send a sternly worded letter. Blizzard sent a legal nuke. And I am not joking when I say that. Neither are they. They're invoking the RICO Act. This is a law that was initially designed to take down the mafia, the actual mafia. And in the process, they are revealing the public information of the people behind it. With one single line, they gave credence to a long-standing conspiracy of corruption in a secretive private server empire, one where people are making millions. An empire that Blizzard might know all about, but they need a legal angle of attack. It makes for a hell of a story, but hey, as a silver lining, I think this is kind of proof. Proof that Blizzard really does know what we want from Classic Plus. If you only pay attention to retail WoW, you may not even know what Turtle WoW is, though you may have seen advertisements for it. Anyway, here's the short version. It is quite simply one of the most promising private servers in existence. Over the last 8 years, it headed down the route that I'd say most of us would want from a Classic Plus. They were actively developing the game, they had a team of over 100 members, and this meant new story content, new dungeons, new raids, new zones, all explicitly friendly with vanilla lore, all perfectly matching the Classic style. Take a look at this map for Dragon Maw Retreat, just for one example. Anyone could be convinced that this is a real Classic dungeon. Even this orc staff is based on an old sketch from Chris Metzen. And looking at the Turtle WoW wiki starts to make you think you're kind of in a parallel world where things turned out differently. One where high elves are a playable alliance race, or where dungeons like BFD or RFK get extended in patches, going even deeper. And on top of all the actual content, the most common thing people would praise about Turtle is their anti-botting measures, said to actually work better than Blizzard's. Now, emboldened by their ambition and success, they have been posting about their player counts. 500,000 active players, 44,000 concurrent players. Those numbers are an absolute triumph, but chasing something that high has likely sealed their doom. You see, they've been hosting adverts on Google's ad services. They've been running social media campaigns. Last year, they posted a trailer showing off their work porting World of Warcraft to Unreal Engine 5. That was a trailer that Blizzard had taken down. They were literally snarking in Blizzard's replies, quite overtly poking the bear. So this then was only a matter of time, even if the people involved thought that they were invincible. On August 29th, Blizzard filed a lawsuit against Turtle WoW. Not a cease and desist. Nostalrius obeyed a cease and desist out of fear, but most small teams just sort of throw them out. This, though, is a lawsuit, and it's one of the most intense ones that I've seen in quite some time, because of these two things: participation in a RICO enterprise and engaging in a RICO conspiracy. As I said earlier, that is literally anti-mafia law. Blizzard are saying this isn't just a fan-made private server. They are calling Turtle, quote, a multinational business enterprise engaging in, quote, organized crime. How? Well, they allege they are, quote, operating a sophisticated and lucrative global enterprise that develops and sells software that the defendants know illegally infringes on Blizzard's trademarks and copyrights. That alone is not enough, though. They've also been, quote, authoring and distributing extensive US marketing campaigns and funding solicitations that tout pirated content. Blizzard argues in the case that this is illegal racketeering. And legally speaking here, Turtle does not have a leg to stand on. Any fair use arguments fall apart when you're a 100-strong team, when you're raking in potentially millions of dollars in donations. Donations that I should add are essentially a loose cover for what is a cash shop. They do brazenly advertise in the United States using Blizzard's trademarks. And look, would they be running paid ads if they weren't going to see a return on that investment. The lawsuit makes claims about, quote, negative experiences tarnishing the Blizzard brand. They are provably right here. That's because Turtle has been hacked before, and this even led to the leaking of users' personal data. And even if their server core is based on an emulator that supposedly has no real Blizzard code, that actually doesn't matter in this case. You can just download a full client from their site, and that client has all the WoW assets. Now, when I say they thought they were invincible, I meant it. If they have any hope of surviving, which they claim they will, they have one option. And in fairness, it's a fairly good one. It's relying on being outside of United States jurisdiction. America is not actually the world police. They can't be like, say, the cops from Cyberpunk 2077 that would just teleport right on top of you. The owner of Turtle WoW is Russian, which basically means they're, well, kind of immune. The servers are reportedly hosted in the United Kingdom, operated by a Kazakhstan entity. If legally hunted down, they would have to move somewhere, but there are many somewheres out there, so they otherwise would be fine. And they appear quite confident that they can just hide from US intellectual property law. Blizzard knows that, and that is why Blizzard is using the RICO Act. And that's where the other team members come in, because it could give them power. They might force American and European internet service providers to block access to Turtle servers, or to get their site taken down. As an example, their domain is hosted by Namecheap, which is an American company, so that's free game. Cloudflare as well. And the European defendants in this case are in genuine danger. They could face civil monetary damages, legal fees, and many more. And after touting 500,000 active players, Blizzard could do some serious financial harm. They could ask for many millions. Even if it's the Russian and Kazakhstan elements that hold all the money, everybody else might catch personal liability and somewhat be ruined for life. Though of everyone, it's the Americans involved who are obviously in the most danger. And specifically, there's one, ActRICO, who Blizzard calls the public face of Turtle WoW. And considering he's even been on a YouTube interview in that role speaking on behalf of the team, it is hard to deny. He's kind of Blizzard's in a way, because he is an American. The US courts have direct access to everything, not just money. You see, discovery in law is when you can force evidence out of the other party. ActRICO could give up financial records, and that would give Blizzard a legal trail to follow. And of course, if you hide evidence from discovery, you're very much in a lot of trouble. Discord, for example, could be asked to hand over direct messages from everyone involved. And that might actually be the plan. For years across Reddit and forums, there have been allegations of a private server empire with Shiana at its head. Apparently, even saying their name mutes you on Turtle's Discord server. And that's because people believe Torta, the Turtle WoW owner, is actually Shiana. But not just people. This lawsuit is also making that claim. This is the same Shiana who some people allege to take over private servers, then force in cash shops against the developer's will, and then, well, pockets the money. But not just that. As well as abusing power out of greed, also alleged are doing things like selling maxed out characters or generating gold for gold sellers and taking a split of that. I'm not going to go any deeper on this side of things, but let me put it this way. This is allegedly a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise abusing the genuinely passionate developers of most private servers that you know. And this may be Blizzard dropping a stick of dynamite down that rabbit hole, maybe to see what happens. Or maybe that's all nonsense. And maybe it's just Blizzard angrily trying to shut down a private server that is encroaching upon their business. Either way, though, Blizzard are definitely trying to break Turtle here. But given the Russia and Kazakhstan angle, well, their method is to break the people that they can legally access. Putting insane legal pressure on individual team members is going to cause team problems, and discovery does mean a lot of data will get out. If Turtle survives, it will be without these people. It will be by putting its head down and working quietly in the shadows, like other servers do. Which raises a very big question. Why do Blizzard just not let private servers do their thing? This has been the big talk of the town, basically people saying, look, the only WoW that I want, the only WoW that actually reflects what I want from that experience is over on those private servers. So what is the truth of things? Well, there are loads of private servers out there, and Blizzard mostly seem to let them stand. I mean, real talk, if Blizzard wanted to, there are loads of private servers that they could find and take down. And I've always wondered why they hadn't, because generally big companies tend to do that. What we do see examining the evidence, though, is that Blizzard tends to only take private servers down when they get big. Nostalrius got hit when it was reaching a fever pitch. Even ignoring a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise allegation, Turtle made itself Blizzard's problem by being as big as it was, but by being publicly big, by starting the ad campaigns, by publicizing the Unreal Engine 5 port, and trying to poach players from under WoW's nose. That's who those advertisements would have been targeted at. But in addition to that, we all know Blizzard are working on something like Classic Plus. They quite literally said as much when Season of Discovery ended, and it's been quite a while since then. That does make Turtle a genuine competitor to a business that Blizzard wants to run, based on their own intellectual property, copyrights, etc. And this is the frustrating part. They offered a great experience in Turtle. I mean, I look at some of the patch videos, I look at the stuff that they made, and I see the passion, I feel the passion, and that's damn exciting to me. So they offered a great experience. Obviously, though, they did know the risks. And even if, for the majority of players and developers, it's passion for World of Warcraft in its classic form, well, there was plenty of knowingly profiting from breaking the law going on. Even though, yes, they were filling a market niche that Blizzard was not filling. And the tricky part is that, well, that market need itself is reliant on the Warcraft IP. Without Warcraft assets, Turtle wouldn't be Turtle. As an example, people want a new StarCraft. They might really want StarCraft 3, but that hasn't meant that they've went and bought Stormgate, which is quite literally a spiritual successor to StarCraft 2 made by StarCraft developers. No, people, in addition to game mechanics and stuff, they want the actual IP. They want the thing that makes them feel the way that IP makes them feel. The real McCoy. And I'm not just saying that to defend a multi-billion-dollar company here, absolutely not. This is a problem that Blizzard created by not making their own Classic Plus. And in the vast majority of cases, fan projects should be protected and supported. PC gaming is founded on a mostly healthy modding culture. Even outside of gaming, communities of fan fiction and fan art lead to experienced and skilled creators. But the challenge here is that this isn't just fan art for fan art's sake. It is a full development team, and it appears to be fully monetized, raking in millions from intellectual property that is not theirs. And with no idea of where that money is actually going. In an ideal world, maybe the Turtle devs could go legit. Maybe Blizzard could let them license the Warcraft IP, or work officially with a Classic Plus team. But that changes things. Because if that happened, they would then become headcount under Microsoft. Are Microsoft really going to allow for something like that? And even if they were, it would be different. It would be more expensive. It would be more structured. It would have all the problems of a large organization. It would become a job instead of a passion project, and all the motivations could change drastically. And that's the real struggle here. On one hand, if you do things officially, it's going to take a hell of a lot more work. On the other hand, you could do it quicker, not really asking for permission. You can make massive progress, and you can do that in the shadows and not be caught, but even still, it is dangerous because it invites the kinds of alleged corruption that we're talking about here. If they wanted to continue their project, well, they probably should have respected that and not brought in the monetization angles. It's the monetization via donations that are effectively a cash shop that, to me, just seems like it kind of seals the deal. And it's reasonable to think that if you didn't have the monetization angle and you didn't have the boasting of huge player counts and the paid advertisements, that they might be able to do what every other private server does: stay out of the limelight and just have it be a thing that their users play. Draw people over slowly via word of mouth in DMs, not in big public places. To also take measures like removing visible Blizzard trademarks and offer client patches instead of full game client downloads. But mostly money, keeping money out of the picture, because money invites people who want money. And that very much includes Blizzard. Now, I'm not dooming here. There are plenty of private servers out there that are happy and healthy. There are ones that operate largely in the shadows, like as an example, an ARPG-inspired solo progression server that I'm not going to name, but just point being, there's lots of different takes of what WoW is out there. There's a WoW server subreddit that's very well known and has been well known for years. There's the 4chan general thread that has a whole big list of them. If Blizzard wanted to send out DMCAs, it would take one person a few hours to compile a list of names and web addresses. In fact, as far as we know, they do send them. It's just the owners kind of ignore them, and that's that. Blizzard doesn't really follow up fully. Perhaps they don't feel they need to. Perhaps they feel the only ones that are a real risk are the ones that catch on, as Turtle did. So where does Blizzard go from here? Well, the obvious answer is that some version of Classic Plus is coming. They've probably hit Turtle to clear the way for that, to not have a competing World of Warcraft product, which, let's be real, is kind of their right. It is their IP at the end of the day. Though all we can do is wait for the inevitable announcement. At the latest, I would expect next BlizzCon, which would be in 2026. It may be earlier, just to address the people who are waiting, but either way, I just hope the people get what they want from a Classic Plus that is official from Blizzard, because at the very least, if it's official, well, you're not going to be playing it with fear that one day the servers could be taken down and your characters would be gone. I suppose what I can say for sure is that Blizzard absolutely sees the player demand. Blizzard absolutely has a profit motive. So these things are in alignment. They literally have a dev team that's pretty much said they're working on Classic Plus. It's just a matter of time till we see what Blizzard's vision is. And at the very least, I would hope that the genuine passion of Turtle developers and Turtle players could be a source of inspiration for those developers on the Blizzard team. You know, it's not a perfect situation, but there's absolutely going to be good lessons that can be taken from Turtle's existence. What do you think? Did you play Turtle? Did you want to play Turtle but were spooked out by the idea it could be taken down? What do you think is going to happen next? I'd love to hear, and if you're a player as jaded by the Shadowlands as I am, you might be happy to know that there's been retcons and things that, well, basically do try to take away a lot of the real bad shit from Shadowlands. If you want to learn about that, check out this video next.